So I'm coming to you with a video today that I did not expect to film, and that is a book haul video for December. You probably don't know this, but I have not actually allowed myself to buy any books for a couple of years. I have this huge collection of books that I have never read, and it comes from this book buy. I have a lot of books that I purchased 8-10 years ago that I still haven't read, and that I'm no longer the person I was when I bought them. That's the other thing. As you get older, as you learn about different writers, our education system, at least in America, is dominated by dead white guys, books by dead white guys, and often books by dead misogynist, racist white guys. And so there's a lot of those types of books, and I owned a lot of them. I'm actually really glad that I never got around to reading them. Point is, I took a really hard look at the books that I owned, and I just hauled 2 boxes of books, 2 half-price books, which is great. However, while I was there, I could not help myself. I did a little shopping. I bought 5 books, and I rescued 1 book from my unhaul box. It was originally going to be unhauled. It is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. I don't know when I'm going to get around to this because it's still pretty long. So that's the 1 book I salvaged from my unhaul. The rest of these books are purchased fresh and new. But we'll start with one that I've been looking for a long time, and that is the first, I don't know what the series is called, just the Sookie Stackhouse novels. So this is Dead Until Dark by Charlene Harris, and of course this is a series that True Blood is based off of. I am not a True Blood fan. In college, I had some friends who were really into it. They liked to watch it when we were studying. I couldn't. I mean, ironically, they were watching it while I was watching the first season of Teen Wolf while it was airing. So, like, not like I have some classy leg to stand on. But, I've always been interested in this series. Put it over there so there's less glare. I've always been interested in this series because it's really well selling. It's really beloved. People really like it. And it's in kind of an interesting genre that I like. Another series I would consider kind of similar to this would be like the Anita Blake series. Maybe the Patricia Berg series. So it's a urban fantasy with a female protagonist. And I really want to write a couple series in this genre. But to do that, I want to do some market research, and that means reading books that are popular in the genre. The next thing I got is The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. And so I remember when this book came out, it was about 2005, hardcover. I saw it in Barnes & Noble's, like, brand new section, right? And I thought the title sounded cool. On the hardcover, there might have been a tagline about Dracula. Dracula by Bram Stoker, the original novel, is one of my favorite novels. I remember reading the, inside jacket, being like, oh, that sounds really interesting. But it was a hardcover, and I was 15, and there was no way in hell I was going to spend $25 on a novel. Like, are you kidding me? So this has always been on my radar. Now, 11 years later, I finally own a copy of it. Actually, what I should do is a reread of Dracula, and then this, and then do a whole review about Dracula, because I love Dracula, and I never see anyone talk about it. The next thing I bought was The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, and I'm sure there is not a single person watching this who has not heard of this book. This book is everywhere on BookTube. I believe the author started writing it during NaNoWriMo, and that's why I was interested in it. This book I purchased was The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon, and this was completely impulse buy. I had no intention of buying this or really reading it at all, but it's a beautiful, like, pretty much untouched hardcover. It was $3, and I think it was Reagan of the Peruse Project liked this book, or I saw her talk about it. I'll leave a link to her channel down below. She's a really interesting YouTuber. A lot of fun, a lot of great books and discussion. This book sounded interesting. Not the inside flap. The inside flap doesn't intrigue me at all. It just kind of sounds like a YA novel. with an alternative future set in Oxford, which the alternative future set in Oxford sounds interesting, but I'm really not a YA reader. However, I heard that this book does a lot of really interesting things with language. Like there's kind of, because it's an alternative reality or an alternative future, there's kind of its own language and syntax in here. And I think it's really interesting when authors do things with language in their own book. It really adds a depth and a dimension. And so it was $3. I'll give it a try. And then the last thing I purchased was An Instance of the Finger Post by Ian Pearce. I grabbed this because the name Ian Pearce. I've seen Jen Campbell talk about Arcadia a couple of times, and that book sounds so good. I really want to read it, but I want to read it after I've read his Dark Materials, having really no idea what this was going to be about, and then kind of being surprised. So let me read you the blurb. Set in Oxford in the 1660s, a time and place of great intellectual, scientific, religious, and political ferment, this remarkable novel centers around a young woman, Sarah Blundy, who stands accused of the murder of Robert Grove, a fellow of New College. 4 witnesses describe the events surrounding his death. Each one tells their version of what happened, but only one reveals the extraordinary truth. Brilliantly written, utterly convincing, gripping from the first page to the last. And so what I found out is this is not Ian Pearce's first novel. He has a 6 or 7 book mystery detective series, but this is his oldest standalone novel. It really propelled him into the quote-unquote spotlight, the literary spotlight. I'm not necessarily a huge historical fiction fan, but we'll give it a go. All of these novels that I bought, quite long. This is another 675 one. Let me know if you've read any of those books, if you are planning on reading any of those books, what you think of them, down in the comments below. We can have a nice little chat, and I will see you guys all very soon.